For decades, Canada has been the dream. Beautiful landscapes, universal healthcare, polite people, free speech, safe streets, and a serene living experience. But in 2024, things feel different. People are struggling to find homes they can afford. Newcomers are arriving in record numbers, but cities aren't ready for them. And for the first time in a generation, a lot of Canadians, especially young ones, are starting to ask, is this country still livable? So let's talk about it. Let's dig into what's turning Canada, the once calm and accommodating country, into a pot of problems ranging from housing, immigration, affordability, and whether Canada is heading for a breaking point or just a rough patch. Let's start with the obvious: housing. It's the conversation happening at every dinner table, office break room, and group chat. In 2024, the average home price in Toronto was over $1.1 million, and it was even higher in Vancouver. And we're not talking mansions, just average homes, condos, townhouses. And if you're renting, a one-bedroom in downtown Toronto is now around $2,500 a month, sometimes more. Meanwhile, wages are flat. When you adjust for inflation, most Canadians are barely earning more than they were 5 years ago. Canada is at the worst affordability levels in over 30 years, and in Vancouver, it would take a median income household over 25 years to save for a down payment, assuming they saved 10% of their income every month. Canada is slowly moving from uncomfortable to unsustainable. Now let's talk immigration. In 2023, Canada brought in over 1.2 million people, the highest number in its history. That's permanent residents, international students, temporary workers, all in 1 year. And to be fair, immigration is one of the reasons Canada works. It fills labor gaps, boosts innovation, and helps support an aging population. But here's the problem: the cities weren't ready for this kind of growth. Not even close. Housing supply hasn't kept up. Public transit is maxed out. Emergency rooms are overflowing. And newcomers, many of whom were sold on the Canadian dream, are arriving to find rents they can't afford and jobs that don't exist. Even the government had to pump the brakes. In late 2023, they introduced new caps on student permits and announced a pause on increasing immigration targets after 2025. That's a huge shift and a sign that something's clearly off balance. The group getting squeezed the hardest right now is Canada's middle class. Young professionals, teachers, nurses, tech workers, people who 20 years ago could afford a home, a family, a car, maybe even a vacation. Today, many are living with roommates well into their 30s. Others are commuting 2 hours from the suburbs just to afford rent. Recent reports show that about only 36% of Canadians aged 25 to 34 own a home. That's the lowest in decades. And people are moving. Over 78,000 people moved out of Ontario's major cities in 2023 alone. Where are they going? Smaller towns, rural communities, anywhere that feels affordable. But that's just pushing the crisis somewhere else. Here's the kicker: over half of Canadians under 40 don't believe they'll ever own a home. That's not just an economic issue, that's a mental health crisis waiting to happen. Another pressure point is the massive surge in international students. In 2023, Canada had over 800,000 international students, more than double what they had 5 years before. International students bring in over $30 billion a year, so for universities, it's big business. But that growth came without planning, and now we're seeing the fallout. Some students are living 4 or 5 to a room. Others are sleeping in cars or working illegal shifts just to make rent. These aren't rare cases, they're becoming the norm. In January 2024, the federal government introduced a cap on student visas and started requiring proof of housing before arrival. It's a step in the right direction, but years behind. And it's not just housing. Public services are starting to crack. In parts of Ontario, wait times in emergency rooms are now 12 hours or more. Finding a family doctor is almost impossible, and mental health services are severely underfunded. Toronto's subway and bus systems are overcrowded and underfunded, despite record ridership. And all of this is fueling frustration. A 2024 poll showed that 63% of Canadians now think immigration levels should be reduced, not because they're anti-immigrant, but because the country just isn't keeping up. Canada has always been proudly multicultural. But even the most open societies can get overwhelmed if the math doesn't add up. Okay, so what's being done? The government has launched a $10 billion housing accelerator fund, trying to fast-track construction. There's talk of building millions of new homes by 2030, reforming zoning laws, cutting red tape, which are all good ideas, but they take time. Interest rates are high, which discourages new construction. Developers are backing out, cities are slow to act, and honestly, the urgency just hasn't matched the scale of the problem. Meanwhile, people are still arriving, families are still looking for homes, and the pressure keeps rising. Here's the bottom line. Canada may not be falling apart right now, but it is not too far away. If the housing crisis keeps growing, if the middle class keeps shrinking, and if new Canadians keep arriving to find they can't build a future there, then yes, it will only get worse and unlivable. But with a bold outlook and proper investment in housing, rethinking city planning policies, and actually matching immigration targets to infrastructure, there is still a good shot at making the dream work. Because Canada may not be broken, but it is overdue for a reset. So what do you think? Is Canada still livable, or is the dream slipping away? Let me know in the comments, and hit that like button and subscribe for more content just like this.